Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pimlico Racecourse. The moment has finally arrived. It is Preakness week. I'm Naomi Tucker, and so pleased to be joined by Acacia Courtney. Acacia, what a wonderful day today and a wonderful weekend coming up. How are we doing?
Yeah, we've been really lucky with the weather. It's absolutely beautiful today. The sun is shining. It's going to be that way for Friday and Saturday. We're kind of easing you into it this afternoon with an 8-race card, of course, then followed with a 14-race Black-Eyed Susan Friday and a 14-race Preakness Stakes card. But we're very happy to have the historic Preakness back on the calendar where it belongs as the middle jewel of the Triple Crown.
Yeah, we're warming ourselves and everyone up for the big 2 days to come here. But let's have a look at what you can do in terms of your betting opportunities. We have a big competition going on here. You can win a $20,000 bet on Preakness 146 with every bet you make using either Express Bet or First Bet. What an opportunity, Keisha.
Oh yeah, First Bet always has fantastic promotions. Head over to first.com/bet/promotions for all of the details and make sure to take part in that. If you have a strong opinion in the Preakness as well, this could be your chance. With that big bet, you could make a lot of money.
It could be a life-changing score for sure. And talking about the Preakness, this is what we have been looking forward to. We've been watching these horses train on course every single morning. And during the lightning round, Acacia and I will share some of our thoughts and picks. But of course, tomorrow is the fillies' chance to shine. We've seen some very, very talented ladies hit the track. And what are we looking forward to aside from the Black-Eyed Susan and the Preakness, Acacia?
3-year-old fillies on track tomorrow. We do also have just a stakes-laden card, 6 stakes on Friday with some really, really big fields. I'm looking forward to playing some multi-race wagers. I like that late pick 4, all stakes late pick 4 on Friday too. So looking forward to that, of course, culminating in the Black-Eyed Susan.
Yeah, don't miss Acacia and my picks. They're on Pimlico.com. We post them on Twitter as well, just to make sure that you use the right horses in your exotics. We'll try and help you out.
Right ones.
Hopefully, we'll try and pick some winners for you. But let's have a look at the current track conditions. Beautiful, fast main track, firm turf. The sun is out, Acacia. We're blessed here today.
We're really lucky. It's supposed to be about 70 to 73 today, tomorrow, and Saturday. So very happy about that. And fast and firm is all that you can ask for. And again, some big fields and exciting races to look forward to.
Absolutely. But let's get going here with that 8-race card coming up. First race of the day, of course, the early pick 5 starts right there. 12% industry low takeout as always. And as I mentioned, make sure to check out our selections for all the horses to use. As Acacia and I will start running you through the card coming up today. The excitement, we're building up to something very special once again. But we've got plenty of opportunities for you to, make yourself a quick buck before the big weekend coming up here today. First race on the card, claiming 16 on the turf here. As we mentioned, the turf is firm, 5 furlongs the distance. And we'll start with your top selection occasion, which is the number 4, Christmas in the City, trained by Andres Garibay Sr., owned by Andres Garibay Jr., JD Acosta on board. And this 5-year-old horse has done pretty well on the turf, comes out of a couple of dirt tries here, a nice race under his belt at the beginning of the season, comes in here looking good.
Well, I thought that this was a really interesting race because you have several horses either dropping in class or switching to the turf, and there are some that just have some better pedigrees, I think, that stand out, and I did prefer the ones that had been running against tougher. Now, since the Garibays did end up claiming this horse, he's not run on the grass before, but back when he was with Mike Trombetta, he was running against significantly tougher on the turf. So if you're just looking at the turf form, the last start was for a 20 non-2 down at Gulfstream, significantly tougher competition than what he's going to be facing today. I did not cover that race. This is my first time seeing him. I don't have any notes on him, but on the bottom side, there's a ton of turf pedigree, and he's by City Zip. So with the drop and the turf pedigree, I thought that this could be a good spot, and he'll be a nice price.
It's a wide open event, it seems. Just looking at our selections, you can gather the fact that we have a slightly different opinion, which is absolutely wonderful. The number 9, Ready to Run, is my top selection. Dam 1 on turf at Allowance level, going 7 furlong, has showed a lot of speed and gusto on the turf before. I feel like it was a very good training performance by Ben Feliciano, keeping him going over the winter, really putting some speed into this horse, keeping him running at Charlestown. That allows them to kind of keep their race fitness. Now comes back to the turf, which I think is his preferred surface as well. I know you didn't get to him, so we'll get to your second selection, Acacia, the number 6 Gins and Tins. Mary Epler trains. I think this gelding has a fair bit of tactical speed.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the interesting part about it. I have nothing against Ready to Run as far as the speed does go. I think he'll likely be the main pace setter in here. I'm wondering if there are a couple of others, including No Fooling Dude in particular, who might keep him company early on. The early favorite is Gins and Tins, who, again, a class drop versus what he was facing back in his last time on turf against 35,000 non-winners of 3 condition when sprinting. To be honest with you, I've actually always preferred this horse going a little bit shorter. So I love the turn back in distance, but he's 4 to 5. He's going to be a really short price. And while I respect him, a horse like this at that short a price, it's been a long time since he's won.
Yeah, and especially in a deep field like this, going on the turf sprinting, I feel like might pay to use some price plays underneath. So do check out our picks to the 9, 8, 6, and 10 for me, and the 4, 6, 8, and 5 for Acacia as we move on to the second event on the day. Mile 16 two-turn event here for fillies and mares, 3, 4, and 5-year-old trying to break their maiden. We both see this a little bit more similarly than the first race. Acacia, you start things off by using the number 3, Sheriff's Kid. Michael Trombetta trains. Is most likely going to be a clear favorite here. She ran a terrific race last time out. Before she was stalking before joining 3 wide on the top of the pace. She took over in this really sharp forward move. I give her a solid chance in here too.
I think that if she runs anything close to that 40 buyer speed figure last time out, she will be very tough to beat in this race. She's a filly by exaggerator who, ironically enough, did not like the slop 2 starts back. She has that speed. She has experience going a little bit longer. She did run an okay second, going a mile and a 16th at Laurel behind a next out winner, a repeat winner, I should say, and flying it. So I think that that kind of flatters her as far as being able to get the distance, whereas Written by the Stars, I think it kind of goes through these two. I just gave the slight edge off that last race to Sheriff's Kid.
Agreed. Let's have a look at Written by the Stars. Her last race, she really got in a fair bit of trouble there late. You can see her there on the rail, about to make her move. She was rolling and starting to really gear up for something. And then as she moves forward and tries to tries to get through, you can see her just getting kind of sort of slammed on the rail and really took her chances away, didn't it?
It did. When you have especially a young filly, and to be fair, one that's at a lower level, cutting off that momentum, stopping them, really inhibits. And it's hard for them to kind of come back from that and to re-rally, to start again. Stopping and starting, I think, makes it very difficult. And now she is going to be stretching out. You'd imagine she'll be kind of forwardly placed. We wonder if we'll see the same kind of speed we did last time from Irish Brandy, and Sheriff's Kid certainly is not slow.
Yeah, and Written by the Stars, if you look back at the race where she was going the 2 turns mile and 16, she was much more forwardly placed, really trying to come with a run. Just kind of got tired trying to chase the victors there that day, but I feel like getting back, stretching back out is really going to suit her quite marvelously here. As we'll move on to the third race on the card, Maiden 25 claiming a mile on the turf. The turf is firm here, and in case your top selection here is towards the outside, but it also is the start of the Rainbow Pick 6, and we do have a carryover $3,955 in the pot to get you started. And Keisha, I'm very curious to see how you are going to play this sequence.
Well, I have what we call the Ron Nicoletti magic number, as he'll be joining us a little bit later today, 43.20. So I'm paying him tribute here. Of course, the 20-cent minimum. It's a 20% takeout with that jackpot-based wager. But I think that the race kind of goes through Makoto in this opening leg. I did end up using Steri Decisis as well on the drop in class, first time for the Hendricks barn. In the next race, I did actually consider singling Anika Gold. I just prefer her on the drop in class, but didn't want to leave out the Kieran McGee horse, who will likely be a big part of the speed, and that's 9 Martini stretching out. I'm 3 deep in what I think is a very wide open 5th race, that Maiden 25. Again, just pedigrees plays for me in that spot. We have a Maiden 10 in the 6, 2 deep in there. I think it goes between Erica Jane and Irish Saga, both of whom would need to drastically improve, but just seem to have found their friends today. And in the 7th race, that's a nice feature. Some other horses that have some back class or trying the turf for the first time. 3 deep in there. And in the nightcap, Swirly Shirley will be very difficult to beat, but I had a little bit more wiggle room with just that 20-cent base wager, and I included the class dropping Grace Isabella to back myself up.
Yeah, I like that you use Grace Isabella to back yourself up. I am going for a single in that final race, but we'll
I
get
like
to
it.
that in just a second. Love that that's Ron Nicoletti's magic number, 43.
Every day. I wonder, I mean, it is coming up at Black Eyed Susan and Preakness Day in the next couple of races, so he may step it up a little bit, but all is right in the world when Ron Nicoletti has a $43.20 ticket.
I love it. I'll definitely be checking out his selections as well, as he is joining us for the 3 days coming
Can you tell
up.
I miss him?
Am I not good enough?
No, I love it.
Sorry, Ron, I can't replace you, apparently. Very much looking forward to having him on. He'll be joining us for the last 4 races on the card today, and of course the entire day on Friday and Saturday. Let's get going here with that third race, going the 1 mile on the turf. The number 9, Makoto, is Acacia's top selection, and so is mine. We see this very similar here. Blinkers go on for this trainee trained by Jorge Duarte Jr. He is very sharp when he puts the blinkers on. 7 from 22 over the last 5 years when applying blinkers. 32% winners, 59% in the money. And this is a gelding that really traveled wide all the way over that 6 furlongs on the aqueduct surface. Got bumped a couple of times. Really didn't have the greatest of trips or the greatest of time that day, to be honest. And I still think that he showed a lot of heart just trying. So that 9th place, well beaten, to me is a lot less bad as it might seem like if you look at the running lines.
It was also followed by a pretty significant layoff. I think it's clear that they want to keep this horse on the turf. It didn't opt to try to run on the main track during the winter, either in Maryland or in New York. And he was facing some tough horses in those 2 races in New York. Winter's Back, who he ran against 2 back, is stakes quality for Todd Pletcher. And also last time when sprinting, he didn't show any of that early speed, which is definitely one of his biggest advantages. So the blinkers do go on. And I liked the stat that you shared about the blinkers, because Duarte actually has really good numbers off the layoff too, which I was curious about. On the turf with a layoff of 61 to 180 days, 9 for 30, about 30% winning, and 50% of the time in the money with a pretty big ROI.
Double whammy here on the stats. It seems all roads are leading towards
Now he has a
number
lot
9.
of extra weight to carry too, though, poor Makoto.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll talk about the number 2, Stare Decisis. Richard Hendricks, if I said that correctly, by the way. Blinkers go on. I use him underneath too. Now, this is a gelding with perhaps a little bit of a character. He was playing up a little bit in the gate last time out at Saratoga. Was a little bit, how do I coin it? Unprofessional perhaps around the turn, just fighting his jockey ever so slightly. Jose Lescano had to allow him to move forward, and perhaps that took a little bit of starch out of him fighting the jockey before kind of settling into it.
He's a tricky horse. I've seen him actually in all of his starts. And he was purchased at the Keeneland November breeding stock sale for $16,000, which is how he now comes to Maryland and is coming in off the layoff. The blinkers do go on, which should help with some focus as well. That was actually the very last race of the Saratoga meet, and I'll never forget because it was won by a horse named Sir Chubby, which is kind of difficult to forget as well. But I think that the drop in class should suit. He was just running against much tougher. The blinkers should help with the focus. He was never the type of horse that really seemed to be clued in as to what he was doing. So I think the addition of blinkers should actually help to add a little bit more focus, hopefully.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that because he looked like he was over racing a little bit. So I was wondering if either the blinkers are going to straighten him out or maybe make him even more keen. But you think the latter?
I think that he just was, as far as seeing him back in the fall and the summer, he just never really seemed to know actually what he was doing. So maybe he was trying to overcompensate, and that's where you kind of gathered that he might have been over racing. So it might make him a little bit keener. My hope is that it'll just kind of help him a little bit more focus at the task at hand.
Yeah, and hopefully the long layoff, he's been allowed to mature a
Yes.
little bit as well and comes in here with a more professional performance. I like him in my top 3. I have the number 10, Ripid, in my exacta. This is an interesting story. This is a 3-year-old by, of course, Tappet, a perennial champion sire in the US. His dam, Riposte, is out of Rainbow Lake, making her a half-sister to Kind. Kind is the dam of Frankel, one of the best turf horses we've ever seen. So royally bred, of course, Judmont Farms, you always know that their bloodlines are absolutely elite. He was well bet on his second start at Saratoga. He was on the speed before fading badly late, and he now gets back on the turf. So I think Rip It, based on his pedigree and the fact that by far his best efforts have come on the turf, could be very intriguing at 12 to 1.
It is, yes, his best efforts in that he just didn't lift his feet up on the dirt in his last couple of starts. I haven't seen him since last summer, but he's very small. Unfortunately, Rip It did not get the appearances of his royal family. So he had to kind of overcompensate, and he was a very tricky type of horse in that he trained really well and didn't actually transfer that over into the afternoon. So I think given the fact that he only ran against maiden special weight company on the turf, so the drop now should really suit him, and getting back to what I agree is the surface he's bred for.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how he'll fare today. Once again on the beautiful turf. Race 4 starts the Rainbow Pick. No, it starts the Late Pick 5. We just had the Rainbow Pick 6. I'm getting all my wires
It's
crossed
only
here.
8 races, so like it starts early. Where does it begin?
So often we have the Rainbow Pick 6 starting in race
Yeah.
4, so it's such a common thing for me to think we're starting the Rainbow Pick 6, but we are starting the Late Pick 5. Good sequence coming up. I picked this sequence for my ticket. 12% industry low takeout as always. Got my single. Really wondered if I should or not, but I got her. Race 4, I used the 1, the 4, and the 6. The 4 is my top selection. 9 Martinis. That race is certainly going to go through this speedster here. Stretching out once again. She's done well over the 1-turn mile at Laurel Park. She really can stay and is going to be the main pace influence. In race 5, I used the 2, the 8, and the 10. The number 8 is my top selection here on that turf event. The 8 Pat's Factor. The Factor, very, very intriguing race last time out, but looking at his pedigree, I think getting onto the turf is going to be a wonderful change for him. He did bolt off the last time. He didn't corner as well, so I think the change of scenery might do him well. By trained by Del Capuano, one of our veteran claiming trainers here, who certainly knows how to straighten a horse out. Race number 6, I used the 4 and the 5 with the 4 Erica Jane, dropping steeply in class for trainer Kieran McGee. Charlie Marquez takes the ride. Kieran has been ultra sharp here with his horses at Pimlico. You have to include him. And Irish Saga is going to be the favorite, so I'm not taking not getting beat by the favorite trained by Timothy Keith. Race 7, I used the 2, the 3, and the 6. And then in race 8, that is where I have my single. The number 4, Swirly Shirley. She's going to show a lot of speed. She was in a beautiful garden spot last time out. Crispin was patient that day. He tipped her out mid-stretch. She does have a little bit of an awkward stride, but she keeps on going. She has that momentum, keeps on fighting. I think she might get the same trip here with there's a bit of speed on her inside, a bit of speed on her outside that she could make full use of once again. So I feel like it just sets up for her. And yes, singling in the final leg of my late pick 5 is a little bit gutsy. So if you don't want to do that, do add a couple of other horses as occasion. I will talk about race 8 coming up. $27 flat late pick 5 with plenty of opportunity here. Let's get going with race number 4, mile and 16 for fillies and mares 3-year-old and upwards, claiming 12.5 to 10,000. The number 1, Annika Gold, is your top selection. Occasion Hugh McMahon trains. JD Acosta make that the rider there because Katie Davis has announced that she is carrying her first child with jockey Trevor McCarthy, who was also a mainstay on her circuit here. So congratulations to them. She won't be riding today or anymore at present. This is a mare that was hung out quite wide in her last 2 tries and now takes class relief.
It is a big class relief, and of course a huge congratulations to the McCarthys. Trevor has done a sensational job riding in New York in a very, very tough circuit, and will be taking his tack out now to California. I know. We're going to miss him in New York as he's heading to California now as well, but wishing him the best of luck and a huge congratulations to both of them on that exciting news. But yes, JD Acosta picking up Annika Gold. It is, I thought that she was kind of the class of the field. She had back class as well. She also has races where she's been more forwardly placed, and lately she's kind of been losing her speed. And to me, that's a sign that a horse is maybe not moving exactly in the right direction, is having some difficulty perhaps being competitive at that level. I think she's just been facing tougher, and I expect her to be a little bit more forwardly placed from that inside post. I don't expect her to be the speed because to me that'll be 9 Martinis who is stretching out.
Yeah, I love Nine Martinis on top here. I think she can stay the distance. Yes, she has been running over the sprinting distance in the past. We do have a video of her effort going that one-turn mile at Laurel just to show you how strong she really is. Even when encountering that prolonged stretch to the second wire, she wasn't letting up at all, but you normally tend to see if horses really don't want to go the distance.
No, I agree. I thought that her win was very strong, and she was actually a price that day because she had been sprinting. So clearly she can handle it. She's effective at a multitude of distances, which what a mare to have in your barn, a 5-year-old that's still being very competitive at different levels and different distances and with other barns too. So I think that that was really encouraging to see how game she was that day. And now that she does stretch out, I imagine she'll be aggressively sent. I don't think Bring Me Answers is nearly as fast. If you look at the paces she was setting in her last couple, she went 25-1 for the opening quarter. I just think My Martinis is so much faster.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I use Bring Me Answers underneath. I don't think that she's going to be able to steal it up the front like she did last time. Charlie gave her a peach of a ride that day. The number 6, Yesterday's Plan, I'm using her in my exacta based on the fact that I think there might be quite the pace. Then you're looking at a mare like Yesterday's Plan to use that speed to her advantage and come with a late closing run. Possibly they just wanted to get a run in her. They ran her on the turf. I don't think that suited her as strongly. She now gets back to the main track over a distance that she's been very capable at running as she's won going the one-turn mile at Laurel Park. She is that horse that you look for late. Sheldon Russell gets back on, and we know that Sheldon is very strong and very good at lifting these type of horses up to really produce a finish.
I included the number 3, Hide and Seek Sally, if I could get that name out. Hide and Seek Sally, who she did set the pace, again a slower pace last time out, but she's not a need the lead type. I'd imagine she'll be just behind the pace setters.
Yeah, I include her definitely. I include her underneath as being one of the pace influences there. A veteran mare that just keeps on finding. As we'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back with the rest of the card.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round off her inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 on top. It's last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Pimlico Racecourse. An absolutely beautiful day as Acacia Corney and I are trying to pick some winners for you. We're on race 5. We're going to go the mile on the turf course here. Turf is firm. Main track is fast. There's so much fun stuff coming up here. The Maiden 25 Claimer is race number 5. We'll start with your top selection, Acacia, which is the number 7. Surfing, Claudio Gonzalez trains first off the claim. We know how sharp he is there. By Verrazano, JD Acosta is a very good gate rider. I think he's going to put him a little bit forward. I didn't get to him on the turf here.
Well, it was interesting. I actually had a really tough time with this race. I thought it was really tricky in that you just didn't really have a ton of form to really go off of. And again, just going back onto some pedigrees and things like that. And this horse was completely taken out at the start last time, breaking out and then stuck wide the whole time. I think you can be forgiving of that. And also just watching the way that he moved, to me, he looked like a turf horse. By Verrazano is a good turf influence on the bottom side. The Dam's 2 wins were on the turf, and she's by Holy Roman Emperor. This is her first foal. Now, Claudio Gonzalez, known for off the claim, not necessarily known for trying the turf for the first time, but it has actually happened a couple of times looking up some stats. So it's not something that he's known for, but it's not something that is impossible to happen, and I thought she'd be a little bit of a price on a hot barn.
Yeah, absolutely. 4-1 morning line, but I feel like this is a field where there's a few that could step up. I use the number 8 Pat's Factor as my top selection for trainer Jill Capuano. Half sister to Pat's Factor, Dance Queen won her first 2 starts going long on the turf for the same trainer. Always like a trainer that knows the family, and hence taking a chance here with a gelding that hasn't gone on the turf before, has been running very well long, now gets back on a beautiful turf course here. Did have a bit of a hiccup in his last start. He decided that he didn't want to continue around the corner, but just wanted to go back towards his barn, so broke out very sharply. Have to forgive him for that. I hope just getting him on the turf might be just different scenery, you know, freshening him up, and then hopefully he'll be a bit more professional.
Well, you mentioned a civil sibling one on the turf of the Factor has been a very good turf influence. I've noticed they're a little bit distance challenged all in all. So I think actually cutback, I know it's to a mile versus mile and a 16th, but I think a mile on his preferred surface might just be the sweet spot for him. I had some interest too in the 10 Jestful, who does have some turf form and against tougher. I thought that the drop in class and getting back to the grass could be a good spot.
Yeah, I use the number 10 Jestful as well. Most likely going to take a fair bit of the money. Comes off a break. They just waited for the turf to return here. Has run very well on the Mid-Atlantic circuit. Made a convincing move around the home turn, 2 starts back on the turf at Laurel Park, but wouldn't switch leads. Tired quite badly there on the left lead, so hopefully this gelding is going to be able to get that fresh lead and kick further clear, but I use him as well. Most likely going to be forwardly placed. As we'll get going with race number 6 for fillies and mares 3, 4 and 5-year-olds, going the sprinting distance of 6 furlongs. Maiden claiming 10,000 to 8,000. And let's start with the number 5 Irish Saga, because we have a video spotlight on her from her last efforts not too long ago, 12 days ago, where she nearly wiped out the 2 runners on her outside there starting, but still showed speed moving forward despite that.
She did, yeah. She had a breakout at the start, which sometimes more inexperienced horses will see that a lot from them and kind of running to open space or running to their foes or just not exactly being as well prepared coming out of the gate. It could have been a number of things that had happened. She'd shown some good speed 2 starts back, so hopefully she does break a bit better. She takes a drop in class 2 from 25,000 down to the 10, and I just thought that this was a racer. She had a little bit of foundation, and she's not meeting anybody that I think will give her the toughest time in here, so maybe she just found her friends and somebody's going to get their picture taken.
Yeah, I agree with the steep drop in class, and I think she got plenty out of that experience.
Sure.
She's going to come in here with more fitness, perhaps break a little bit more straight as well, because I did like the way she finished off her race. I use Erica Jane towards her inside, who, if you look at the running line, you're not going to necessarily think she's that interesting, but I watched back that race that Kira McGee trained. She was away well, but she got crowded in between runners, and I really don't think she enjoyed that at all. You can tell that she wasn't that comfortable. I think she has a little bit more speed to perhaps go away further and be towards the outside, or get herself in the clear and not be as how do you say it, dominated by some of the other runners around her, because that seemed to be the case that day. Big drop in class from that maiden 40 level to the maiden 10. I'm taking her as a shot. Charlie Marquez rides here. Now, Charlie, we did see him this morning, one of our promising apprentice riders. I know that he was up in New York for a little bit.
He did. Unfortunately, had a injury to his hand shortly after he started riding there, but he made a splash early on with being aggressive, with putting horses on the front end and doing very, very well. And we've seen him continue coming back to riding and doing exceptionally well here at Laurel, and I'm sure a very big future ahead of him.
Yeah, I hope so indeed. He's a wonderful individual to deal with, a very talented rider to boot. The number 8, My Little Fanny, quite an intriguing name. Jose Corrales trains. Blinkers go on. She was previously campaigned on the Delta Downs circuit. New trainer here in the Mid-Atlantic. Change possibly does one good, and she did show speed in a sharp 5 furlong event where they went 47 and 2 for the half mile at a lower maiden claiming level.
She could be a player, and the number 1 C2 could also be a player on the drop in class, in that she showed a little bit last time out before kind of stopping and just wrapping it up, but she hasn't raced since January and does come back with a drop in class. Each one of these fillies we talked about would need to improve, but I think the drop or change of scenery could help them to do just that.
I think it could be a fun little betting race as we move towards the 7th race on the card. Starter allowance, mile and 16 on the turf. We use some of the same numbers, perhaps in a different order here, Acacia. The number 3, Striking It Lucky, is your top selection. Gary Capuano trains a gelding that comes off a 215-day layoff. One of the horses ending up going to Delaware with Gary String there, as we did have, we are presently having Laurel Park's main track being reconstructed here. So Gary did move a couple of his horses to Delaware. Had a bit of a long gap in his work. That concerns me a little bit.
That's fair. Well, it hasn't raced since October, I'd imagine, given the 2 dirt tries and how disappointing they were. They've just acknowledged that this is a turf horse through and through. So it did kind of wrap up turf season a little bit early for him, having not raced since October. But it was a poor effort before that break. So it might have been something behind the scenes that we don't know about. It does seem to be training forwardly, both at Laurel and at Delta Downs, in that last workout coming into this. I just thought that he might get the run of the race in here. I saw some more speed to the outside, thought that he could sit off of it and close. The way that he broke his maiden, even before that, he was kind of knocking on the door, and just thought it was some pretty salty allowance company that he ran against last time out.
Yeah, I do think the speed might go through the 9, the 6, and the 8 towards the outside here. I use the number 2, Trouble Coffee, as my top selection here. Is a closing style gelding. They tried him long at Gulfstream Park, a mile and a half. And to me, he showed early speed, but he looked like he was wondering how much further he had to go. So I think getting back to that mile and 16 is something he's really going to enjoy, and has shown very capable of tracking a pace and then coming with a closing run. So Carol Cedinho on board here. She's one of our leading riders, so I like that pairing.
Yeah, this horse, I think, will be very happy to not have to run a mile and a half again, and to not have to face the likes of Battalion, Rijeka, and Pillar Mountain, who he was running against down in Florida, who are just, A, they're distance horses, and were suited to those races, and B, are just significantly better. And I think that this one, who did end up being a bit of a runoff last time, too, going the mile and a half, which is never an easy thing to overcome, the rider just unfortunately couldn't hold him. So I think turning back in distance will be the right move, and I think that this is a more logical spot.
And I use the number 6, Frosted Indian, in second. This is a colt that came over from being campaigned up in New York, broke his maiden here at Pimlico for trainer Claudio Gonzalez. This was really interesting. We were discussing how the Frosteds might do on the turf, and I did think you had a couple of very good notes on that.
Well, I've actually always liked the Frosteds on turf, and it's funny because if you look back in pedigree, a lot of the times we look on the bottom side, and there is pedigree on the bottom side for this one too. The dam was very good stakes winner and was a 4-time turf winner, but Frosted's dam, Fast Cookie, who was trained by Bill Mott, was all turf, and she was very, very good on the grass, of course, producing Frosted, who was a sensational dirt horse, particularly you think back to that Met Mile. But I do think that it can carry over. Are they necessarily better on the turf? I don't know. But as far as being able to handle it, I have no problems with Frost on the grass.
Yeah, and I love the way Frosted Indian handled himself, making his debut on this circuit. And I think it's an interesting choice. Claudio Gonzalez putting him on the turf, so certainly would have showed him something in the mornings, making him want to try the grass. So I'm all for it and looking forward to seeing this runner there. As we'll finish things up with the nightcap here. Race 8 is our nightcap today. Of course, we have 14 races coming up on Friday, but we're wrapping things up here. 6 furlongs.
We're going to give you plenty of time to handicap tonight.
Exactly. We'll definitely have our work cut out ourselves as well. Our selections are going to be up at pimlico.com as well. But yeah, definitely something to look forward to as a bettor and a handicapper, really testing your skills coming up over the next 2 days here at historic Pimlico. Race number 8, Fillies and Mares 3-year-old and upward, claiming 8,000 to 6,000, 6 furlong the distance. Now, both you and I go with the number 4, Shirley. She is my single in the late pick 5. So I just given her another 20 pounds to carry towards the wire today. We have a video of her last effort because I just felt that she got such a beautiful stalking effort here, but she didn't get tipped out until later in the stretch, but that was fine. I thought it was a very patient ride by Alexander Crispin. You can see them here starting to wind up. So she isn't that flashy, I'm coming with this run right now, but she keeps on grinding.
She is a grinder. That's a perfect word for her. I mean, look at her stride. Look at how she just kind of incessantly gobbles up the ground and just keeps going to run down her foe, and that's how she runs. I mean, she's won 4 out of her last 5 starts. She's ultra consistent, which I love, especially at a lower level claiming race. To me, that consistency is really key. I think that she's a really strong single. I just did include on my Rainbow 6, including the number 3 Grace Isabella, because of the class drop, but the race goes through swirly Shirley.
Yeah, I use Grace Isabella myself as well, but I do wonder, she hasn't been herself, it seems, in the last 3 starts. She lacks her customary closing kick. when she's in form, she drives away late. So I do think what you were highlighting in one of the couple of earlier races, perhaps the class drop is going to get her back to that old form, because she's just lacked a little bit for me. Hence, I put her underneath. I do use the number 2 Cougar Vision as part of possibly a nice pace setup that she can come with a closing run. She's getting turned around in 6 days. She ran here last week. Now, Sol Ramirez on a 1 to 7 day turnaround, not a very large sample, 4 runners, 1 and 3 in total in the money. So if 75% in the money, only one of his 4 runners didn't run in the money. So clearly, when he decides that they're ready to back up within the space of a week, they're ready to go. So I'm using Cougar Vision underneath, but occasionally you use the number 5 underneath. Ragtime Susie, Claudio Gonzalez, JD Costa, that team again.
They team up for a lot of wins, so I'm not mad at it either. I think batting at this meet about 36%. But this one is turning back in distance. You love to see that with a horse that would obviously have some stamina after having run well in the past. She doesn't seem to handle a wet track well, so I think getting onto a fast track again today and turning back in distance might put her as a player in this spot.
And that will do it for us covering today's card. We'll be back later on to cover the first 4 races, but first, we'll update you on everything that has been going on here with Lightning Round. Ready, set, go. The field for Preakness 146 has been drawn last Tuesday. Acacia, initial reaction to some of the post positions?
Medina Spirit, 9 to 5, morning line favorite, drawn inside. I think that will force John Velasquez's hand as far as setting the pace. The stablemate Concert Tour to the outside, the other speed that gives Mike Smith more opportunity to let the race unfold to his inside, and that could make things a little bit interesting as far as this pace is concerned as they go a mile and 3/16.
Yeah, Midnight Bourbon might just get that perfect stalking trip behind the 2 Bob Baffert speedsters, who most likely indeed will be showing their customary gate speed. Love the number 10 Concertor being on the outside. Like you said, I just think that gives Mike Smith plenty of options and just kind of spying the speed on his inside. All 10 Preakness runners are currently in the house. Acacia and I have been able to watch them train in the morning, and we're looking at a horse that both of us have been quite taken with.
Midnight Bourbon, he was one that kind of was the bad boy before the Kentucky Derby as he got loose on the backside. He was schooled in the paddock many, many times leading up to the Kentucky Derby. He's been spirited here at Preakness, but you can see that they've really been working on his mental maturity. This is normal for him. If he wasn't doing this, I'd be concerned. And speaking with Steve Asmussen about it, Steve himself walked this horse over on the walkover to the Kentucky Derby. He's going to be doing exactly the same at the Preakness. That's how tricky this type of horse is. And if you've ever followed any of these Steve Asmussen runners around the country, around the world, they're usually incredibly well schooled. And obviously the Asmussen barn and the team doing what they need to do to handle the fiery Midnight Bourbon.
I mean, full credit to the exercise rider there, holding him so well. You can see him just sitting as still as possible. Not an easy ride at all. So wonderful job by the Asmussen team. Very much looking forward to seeing Midnight Bourbon line up this Saturday. The Black Eyed Susan is upon us tomorrow for the 3-year-old fillies. They also have been drawn. What did you think of the number 1 Army Wife being drawn towards the rail? Both of us have really liked her in the morning.
I picked her in the Gazelle last time actually as a price, and to be fair, she wouldn't have beaten Search Results. We know how well Search Results ran behind Malathot in the Kentucky Oaks, but she had a terrible trip that day. She's drawn to the inside, but I think Joel Rosario will save all the ground. That's what he is best at, and he will save something for the stretch, those really strong hand rides that he does deliver. I think he suits her beautifully, as she is one that I think will love going the 1 1/8 distance once again. Beautiful Gift is your favorite to the outside. She's coming in after 3 times running against just a 4-horse field in California. She's 9 to 5, and she comes in with some big figures, but I think she meets some tough competition tomorrow.
I have to agree with you there. There's going to be a couple of very talented and unexposed fillies lining up, and Beautiful Gift has indeed not seen the biggest of fields on the West Coast as of yet. Has got good early speed, drawn towards the outside. I'd say she'll get a nice stalking trip because there there are a couple of fillies in here with early speed towards her inside. As we'll have a look at Army Wife on course, because indeed, as we've been mentioning before, both of us have just been quite taken with this Michael Maker trainee 3-year-old filly. Such a troubled trip in the Gazelle, though.
She was completely squeezed back. She wouldn't have beaten search results, but I think that she absolutely could have gotten second. She looks like a colt. I spoke to her owner, Kirk Wyckoff from Three Diamonds yesterday, and he said that she is just about 17 hands, and there's a lot of substance to her as well. The longer, the better. Going 1 1/8 is what she's wanted to do. They always felt she was a 2-turn filly, and for myself, having seen her in Saratoga at the start when she was sprinting on turf, I couldn't wait for her to go to distance of ground. She has a pedigree. She's by declaration of war out of an Arch mare to suggest that she would handle the grass. However, she has really found her home on the dirt, and I think the distance and hopefully a clean trip this time will bode well for her.
Absolutely. It'd be wonderful if she can continue that sustained run instead of getting checked and really taken out the race. And Army Wife, as you highlighted, beautiful balance, full of muscle, has got that kind of colt-like look to her. I very much look forward to seeing her here. Tomorrow is Friday. You know what Friday means. Stronach 5 time. We have the pleasure of kicking off the sequence right here at Pimlico Racecourse with our race 12 being leg A. Golden Gate Fields is leg B. Their race 3. Santa Anita Park leg C. Race number 4. Gulfstream Park, our friends down in Florida, leg D. And then leg E is our final race of the day, as we've just been talking about, the Grade 2 George E. Mitchell Black Eyed Susan. What a wonderful sequence for the Stronach 5 this Friday.
It is fun. You've got the Pimlico Special and the Black Eyed Susan in there, and I have to give a shout out. My friend Pete Aiello calls it Overlay City because it really is. The payouts that you get for that Stronach 5 with that low takeout are always fantastic.
You know, it really tests your handicapping skills with all these different circuits. It's not easy, and it also means that you kind of have to keep your finger on the pulse and know what's going on. But hopefully, we'll be able to help you out when that sequence comes up tomorrow. That's going to do it from Acacia and I for this morning show. But we'll be back in a short while to talk you through the first 4 races on the card. And next up is Dave Rodman with Scratches and Changes.